Think about the last time someone smiled at you, but their eyes stayed cold. The words came out right, but something underneath felt sharp. You walked away from that conversation carrying a weight you could not name. Now think about how often that happens. At work, online, sometimes even with people you have known for years. You are not imagining it. Something has shifted, and the uncomfortable truth is this: modern society is not just failing to heal wounded people, it is actively creating them. The same systems that promise connection are quietly teaching us to become colder, more guarded, more afraid of each other. This is not about pointing fingers. This is about seeing clearly, because once you understand how these forces actually work, why even good people turn harsh under pressure, and what it really takes to break the pattern, you will never look at human behavior the same way again. We throw around the word toxic like we know exactly what it means. That coworker who takes credit for your work, the ex who made you feel crazy for having needs, the friend who only calls when they want something. But we rarely ask a harder question: what turned them that way? Picture a child learning that every time they cry, no one comes, or worse, someone comes angry. That child does not decide to become cold. Their nervous system makes that decision for them. Vulnerability equals pain, so the body learns to shut it down before it even surfaces. Years later, that child is your coworker, your partner, maybe even you. Freud noticed something that changes how we see difficult people. Emotions we push down do not disappear. They mutate. They come back wearing different masks. The anger that feels like it came from nowhere. The need to control everything, the inability to let anyone get close. These are not personality flaws, they are old wounds still running the show. And modern life is exceptional at creating these wounds while pretending everything is fine. We are drowning in messages about productivity, positivity, success. But when was the last time anyone taught you how to sit with grief? How to let disappointment move through you without numbing it away? Jung called it the shadow. Everything we refuse to face inside ourselves does not vanish. It sinks deeper, and from that depth, it starts pulling strings we cannot see. The way we snap at someone who did nothing wrong. The relationships we sabotage the moment they get real. The patterns that keep repeating no matter how many times we swear things will be different. What makes this moment in history different is how fast the poison spreads. You have felt it. One tense email shifts your whole mood. One cruel comment online loops in your head for hours. One anxious person in a meeting somehow makes everyone's shoulders tighter. Neuroscience has a name for this: emotional contagion. Our brains are wired to absorb the emotional states of people around us. Mirror neurons pick up fear, hostility, and defensiveness without our permission. We catch feelings like we catch colds. Now zoom out. Millions of exhausted, defensive, emotionally overwhelmed people are interacting every second. Not just face-to-face, but through platforms engineered to amplify outrage, because outrage drives engagement. Algorithms do not care if you feel worse after scrolling. They care that you keep scrolling. The feedback loop is vicious. Hurt people, and in a world where everyone is connected but no one feels safe. That hurt ricochets faster than any generation before us has experienced. But the machinery goes even deeper than social contagion. Think about your average Tuesday. Bills you are not sure you can cover. Notifications pulling at your attention every few minutes. The low hum of anxiety about whether you are falling behind, missing out, failing at something you cannot quite name. This is not occasional stress. This is the ambient temperature of modern existence, and it is keeping millions of nervous systems locked in survival mode. Not sometimes, constantly. When the brain stays in fight or flight long enough, something fundamental breaks down. The capacity for patience shrinks. Nuance becomes harder. Other people stop looking like complex humans with their own struggles and start looking like obstacles, threats, competition. None of this makes someone a bad person. It makes them a person whose biology is responding to an environment that never lets up. Ask yourself, honestly, when was the last time you felt truly safe? Not just physically, but emotionally. Safe enough to be seen. Safe enough to be wrong. Safe enough to need something from someone without fearing what it might cost you. When that safety disappears, everything else shifts. Trust gets replaced by control. Honesty gets replaced by strategy. Vulnerability becomes a liability you cannot afford. The toxic person everyone complains about is often someone whose nervous system has been screaming for years while no one listened, not even them. There is another layer most people never examine. The screens we carry are not just tools, they are mirrors, broken ones. Before the internet, you built your sense of self slowly, through real experiences, through people who actually knew you, through the quiet accumulation of knowing what you liked, what you believed, who you were when no one was watching. Now, identity is a performance that never stops. Every photo is edited, every post is calculated, every interaction becomes a tiny audition for approval. And somewhere along the way, the performance starts feeling more real than the person underneath. There is a term in psychology for this, the false self, a mask we construct to survive social expectations. The problem is not wearing the mask. Everyone does that to some degree. The problem is forgetting you are wearing one. The problem is the mask growing into your face until you cannot tell where it ends and you begin. Social media did not invent this, but it industrialized it. It made the false self the default setting for an entire generation. And there is a price for living this way. When your identity depends on likes, comments, and the perception of strangers, criticism stops feeling like feedback. It feels like annihilation. When someone disagrees with you online, it does not feel like a different opinion. It feels like they are saying you should not exist. This is why the smallest provocations trigger the biggest reactions. That person losing their mind in the comments over something trivial is not crazy. They are terrified. Their sense of self is so fragile, so dependent on external validation, that every challenge feels existential. Remove the validation, and what is left? For too many people, the honest answer is they do not know. What happens when survival strategies run long enough is something even more troubling. They stop being strategies, they become identity. Think about someone who got hurt badly, betrayed by someone they trusted, abandoned when they needed support most. At first, the walls they build are protection, temporary measures to get through the pain. But walls that stay up long enough become permanent architecture. The person does not think anymore, I am guarded because I was hurt. Instead, a quieter belief takes root. I am just not the kind of person who lets people in. I am not built for closeness. I am the one who leaves before I can be left. Cold becomes character. Distrust becomes philosophy. Loneliness becomes proof that they were right all along. Nobody can be trusted. Might as well stop trying. Jung described this as identification with the persona. The mask, originally worn to survive, fuses to the face. What was once a temporary adaptation becomes a permanent prison. The person loses access to who they were before the wound. They become the wound. That sharp co-worker who seems incapable of warmth. The friend who always keeps you at arm's length. The parent who could never say, I love you without it sounding like a transaction. They are not evil. They are trapped, wearing armor so long they forgot there was ever skin underneath. And modern life accelerates this fusion by offering no space for repair. We move from relationship to relationship, job to job, crisis to crisis, with barely a moment to process what happened before the next thing demands our attention. Pain accumulates, and pain that never gets metabolized always finds a way out. Sometimes as control, sometimes as criticism, sometimes as the quiet cruelty of simply refusing to show up emotionally. Every time it is a signal. Something deeper is asking to be healed. Underneath most of this armor lies something people rarely name. Shame. Not guilt. Guilt says I did something wrong. Shame says I am something wrong. It is the deepest, most corrosive belief a person can carry. The feeling that at your core, you are broken. Defective, unworthy of the love you secretly crave. Shame grows in the dark. It feeds on comparison. And modern culture has created the perfect breeding ground. Every scroll shows you someone doing better. Every feed reminds you of the gap between your messy reality and everyone else's curated highlight reel. The result is an epidemic of people who feel fundamentally not enough. And when that feeling gets triggered, the reaction is immediate and brutal. Attack before you are exposed. Dominate before you are dismissed. Withdraw before anyone sees the truth. These are not random personality quirks. They are shame management strategies, desperate attempts to protect a wound that never got proper care. At another layer, most people never learned how to handle emotions in the first place. Nobody taught them. Feelings show up overwhelming and unfamiliar. So anger becomes the default because at least anger feels powerful. At least anger feels like doing something. But that explosion at your partner over dishes? It was never about the dishes. That rage at a stranger online. It was carrying the weight of something much older. Without the ability to name what we feel, we become hostage to reactions we do not understand. And we keep hurting people who had nothing to do with the original wound. There is a pattern that haunts so many people, and it rarely gets talked about honestly. Why do we keep choosing the wrong ones? Why does the unavailable person feel more magnetic than the one who actually shows up? Why do some people leave healthy relationships feeling bored, then chase chaos like it is oxygen? The answer lives in the nervous system, not the heart. When a child grows up with love that comes and goes unpredictably, their brain wires intimacy to uncertainty. The parent who was warm one day and cold the next. The caregiver whose affection had to be earned through perfect behavior. The home where you never knew which version of mom or dad was walking through the door. That child grows up and falls in love. But their nervous system does not recognize steady warmth. It feels wrong, boring, suspicious even. What feels like home is the roller coaster, the highs and lows, the person who keeps them guessing. This is why someone can know they deserve better and still stay. The bond is not logical, it is neurological. The chaos feels familiar, and familiar feels safe even when it is destroying them. Picture a woman who keeps dating men who are emotionally unavailable. She tells herself she has bad luck. She wonders what is wrong with her, but deep down she is not choosing randomly. She is being pulled toward a pattern that matches her earliest template of love. She is trying to finally win the affection that was withheld the first time. The tragedy is that without awareness, each failed relationship just deepens the wound. Each time confirms the old belief. Love has to be earned. Closeness comes with pain. I am not the kind of person who gets to have it easy. Breaking this cycle takes more than willpower. It takes seeing the pattern for what it is. Understanding that the intensity you feel with certain people might be trauma recognition, not compatibility. Learning to tolerate the discomfort of healthy love until your nervous system stops interpreting safety as boredom. Modern life offers almost no support for this kind of inner work. Instead, it offers distraction, endless scrolling, constant noise, the perpetual buzz of a world that treats silence like a problem to solve. Pascal said it centuries ago, most of human misery comes from the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. We have not gotten better at this. We have gotten worse. Silence terrifies us because silence means feeling what we have been running from. But pain that gets avoided does not disappear. It leaks into our tone, into our choices. into the way we treat the people closest to us without realizing what we are doing. The most important skill for surviving this era might be the capacity to stay present with discomfort, not to fix it immediately, not to scroll it away, just to let it move through without setting fire to everything around us. So, what actually breaks this cycle? If modern life is a machine for creating fractured people, is there any way out? The answer is uncomfortable because it puts the responsibility exactly where we do not want it, on ourselves. Fighting toxic people does not end toxicity. Changing ourselves does. Not because victims should be blamed, not because systems do not matter, but because waiting for the world to fix itself is a recipe for staying stuck forever. What shapes a person most is not what happens to them. It is how they relate to their own inner life, whether they face what is inside or keep running, whether they own their shadow or keep projecting it onto everyone else. Jung spent his life studying this. The people who become whole are not the ones with easy histories. They are the ones who stop blaming the world for their wounds and start doing the unglamorous work of integration. Most people think the opposite of toxic is nice. It is not. The opposite of toxic is conscious. Consciousness means the ability to feel something painful and not immediately dump it on someone else. It means noticing when you're about to react and choosing something different. It means pausing in that gap between what happens to you and what you do next. Every toxic pattern thrives on speed, on reaction before reflection, on the instant discharge of discomfort onto the nearest target. Frankl survived things most of us cannot imagine. Concentration camps, the death of everyone he loved, and from that crucible, he came back with one insight that dismantles every excuse we tell ourselves. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. That space is where we become human. That space is everything. Healing does not mean the pain goes away. It means the pain stops controlling you. When you can name what you feel, when you can let it exist without acting it out, it loses its charge. It becomes information instead of compulsion. Modern culture desperately needs to redefine strength. Strength is not numbness. It is not the inability to be hurt. Real strength is staying open when everything in you wants to close, feeling deeply without letting that feeling destroy you, choosing vulnerability, knowing it might cost you, and deciding connection is worth the risk. One more thing makes all of this hold together: meaning. People with a reason to live can survive almost anything. People without one become dangerous, to themselves, to everyone around them. When life feels pointless, the temptation to tear things down grows. When nothing matters, neither does anyone else's pain. But when you are anchored to something larger than yourself, the need to dominate and diminish others fades. You stop needing to win because your worth is not on the line anymore. The toxic person is often someone who lost their meaning somewhere along the way. Disconnected from purpose, disconnected from genuine belonging, sometimes disconnected from themselves so long they forgot there was anything to come back to. Punishment does not fix this. Rejection does not either. What helps is interrupting the cycle. One moment of consciousness at a time. One choice to respond instead of react. One decision to feel the pain instead of pass it on. If you are still here, something in this landed. Maybe you recognize yourself in some of these patterns. Maybe you recognize someone you love. Maybe both. That recognition is not comfortable, but it is the beginning of something that matters. A person who stays conscious in a world that rewards reaction is not weak. They are doing the hardest thing there is, and that work ripples further than any algorithm will ever track. The change the world needs does not go viral. It happens in the pause before you send that message you will regret, in the moment you decide to feel something instead of drink it away, in the conversation where you tell the truth even though it would be easier to perform. You are capable of that. You have always been capable of it. If this meant something to you, leave a comment with what hit hardest. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper. And send this to someone who needs to hear it but would never search for it themselves. What you do with your awareness matters, even when no one is watching, especially then.